Hi there, and welcome to another episode of Fantasy for the Ages, the show where a father and son, and sometimes other people, sit down and be judgy about things in fantasy. I'm the son in that equation, Zach.
And that makes me the father, Jim. And I'm feeling like we're going to be very harsh now this episode if we're getting all judgy already. Wow.
I mean, I'm just in a judgy mood.
Oh, this could be a long episode.
We tried getting ice cream and it just didn't show up, and it's a whole mess.
All downhill from there.
Yeah.
Well, again, I want to thank everybody for joining us for another episode of our Fantasy for the Ages podcast. We're here for a midweek episode this time, as we're recording something about a magic system again. And what one would we be talking about, Zach?
I don't know, some Wizarding World or something like that. I don't know.
But we'll get to that in a little bit.
How you doing, Dad?
I'm doing all right because the air conditioning is working. We're about to hit another heat spell. We're supposed to have triple digits again the next 3 days. That'll be the second time this summer with 3 days of triple digits in a row, and we don't do that here in the Portland area. So,
apparently you do.
Well, and last time it happened, the air conditioning failed on day 3. So I'm hoping we're going to make it this time.
I have faith in at least you, if not the AC.
And at least me to give up and go to the mall if necessary? Is that what you mean? If the air conditioning fails, I'll go somewhere else?
It wasn't my thought, but now that you say it, yeah.
Hey. Well, how you doing, Zach?
I'm doing all right. I'm tired. I spent most of the day helping a friend move. Their bed tried to disembowel me, but I'm good.
What? Disembowel. There's a story there.
One of the bed springs was sticking out a corner, and in moving it, it just whoosh, right across my midsection. It's just a little scratch, though, really. I'm fine. It was a little painful. On the bright side, just like 20-30 minutes ago or something, I saw a deer with 2 baby fawns. So that was a nice part of my day, just right out behind my apartment.
Nice. Now, was it really big? Because, in Texas, everything's bigger, they say.
I've seen moose. It's nothing compared to that.
Big deer is wasted on you. Gotcha. Well, how about a drink today, Zach? I see we are looking at each other from afar over Zoom, so I saw you just picked something up and had a sip. What are you drinking tonight?
Well, you stocked my bar pretty well, and I hadn't really cracked into the rum yet, so I decided I would go to the store, pick up some soda, and just do some nice rum and cokes tonight.
Very nice.
So I'm keeping it simple. Yours looks a bit more interesting, as usual.
Mine's kind of fun because inadvertently it matches my shirt completely. It's like almost disappears.
It almost looks like you're not drinking something.
Exactly. I made a tropical breeze, and I'll drop the recipe on our Instagram, and I already have a picture ready to go. It's tasty. Your mother loves this one too because it's got 2 shots of Malibu rum, and she loves that coconut flavor right there. And then a shot of blue curacao, a shot of spiced rum, which again, your mother really loves, and then a couple shots of pineapple juice. So simple, not overly strong, very fruity.
And very blue.
And very, very blue. Very nicely blue.
So as we're going to be soon diving into the Wizarding World, like we've mentioned in a previous episode, I brought a friend.
Hey,
I brought a friend! I have friends!
Yay!
You have friends! No, we know, the world now knows. The world knows. You have 2 friends.
I should mention, directly in front of me, I can see Rach, my girlfriend, going, I'm sorry, what? As she's throwing hands, being upset that apparently she doesn't count. She's already
exactly, that's
what
I'm saying. No, the world now knows you have 2 friends because Rach has been on the episode, on a podcast. Now you've brought a second one, so there's proof. Okay, I'm happy. You have friends.
So, hi, Sam. Introduce yourself. Say a little bit
Hi.
something, and let us know if you're drinking anything.
Hi, I'm Sam. I'm a friend of Zach's. I've known him for a long time now, like 6 years, 7 years, something like that. I can't remember. How long have I been
I think.
How long since I was a senior in a high school?
It's like a third of his life.
That's weird to think
disgusting.
That's perspective. Ooh. It's a blip in my life, but we won't talk about that.
And I'm drinking a fruited sour beer.
Ooh.
Which, come to find out, all but one of them were missing when I went to get one. So it means our roommate's been drinking them because Drew hasn't been. So that's fun.
Jordo is one who's with us in our server, does appreciate a good beer. So this is a tasty fruited beer.
It's my favorite. Yes. I love it. It's very good.
I know, technically speaking, the last episode that we published, well, will be publishing before this, we just recorded yesterday. Spoiler, that happened. Do we have any new announcements, though?
We don't really. Well, we have one new person on our Discord server, but it's Sam.
We do. She's right with us.
So does that really count?
Sure, why not? Hi, Sam.
Hello.
And I know Jordo was right there to give you a great welcome onto the server as you jumped in.
Yes,
So,
right away.
Thank you, Jordo. You were awesome as always.
I tried to sneak in there silently, and it just wasn't possible.
No,
you don't. No one's
no
puts past Jordo.
I don't think I could if I wanted to.
Jordo does want to know what flavor fruit your beer is.
Oh, good question. Well, I'm trying to remember. It used to be on the can. I think it's got like hibiscus and like something else. I cannot remember. It's not on the can like I thought it was.
So the taste doesn't come through really strongly then.
No. Here it is. Acai, guava, and elderberry is the combination. It's really good.
Your father smells of elderberries.
Nice reference. I like it.
Beautiful. You guys should try to cover Monty Python magic.
I mean, that is a
know.
whole nother can of worms.
You know we're going into Monty Python someday. You know it.
We're just going to have a watch party. It's going to be great.
Oh, that would be classic. We do have a YouTube channel waiting and ready for it. We can do that. Totally.
I do have one more announcement, actually.
Okay.
Last episode, we decided to do a scratch-off map of the places that have actually had listeners of this podcast. I have not gotten the map yet. That's not my announcement. However, my dad did go ahead and compile a spreadsheet of all the countries. So I now have the database to do the scratch map with. So be ready within like a week or two, maybe 3, depending on if I have to go through like Amazon and order a map. You'll see a picture of where we're at on our Instagram.
Barnes & Noble has them sometimes.
I will look there possibly tomorrow. It's a good reason and excuse to go to Barnes & Noble.
You always need one.
I'm sure we can get that image up on our Discord too. That'd be great.
Definitely. All that out of the way. Are we ready to start being a little judgy?
Always.
Yes.
I'm bringing it back to the judgy. All right. As always, when we're doing these magic rating systems, we're judging it on a number of criteria. Dad, can you remind us of what those are?
I would love to do that. So we've got a rubric that we established way back for the first one, and we've continued to follow it. And so what we're going to be looking at in this particular episode is 6 different categories
that are completely objective, no opinions in here. It's
oh yeah,
fact.
Totally. And we'll go into the details on what the specifics of these categories are, but just the titles of them. Right now, we're looking at the consistency of the definition of this magic system, the clarity of the system, the power, the impact it makes, the practical value, and the means of usage, what it takes to use the magic. And we need to have a measure we'll use, because while we're going to do a 5-point rating, we rate it not just as numbers. So what do you think we should be awarding 4 of or 5 of for these ratings? I know what my idea would be, but I'd love to hear what you guys think. What would be appropriate for the world of Harry Potter?
My first thought was wands, and then I went, we're not that kind of podcast, so we shouldn't.
I don't think this should not be a wand counting contest. Yeah, no. My wand is bigger than your. No, we're not going there.
It's 13.5 inches.
Weird argument to have with your dad. I would also like to say, though, that I have Zach beat because mine's 14.5 inches.
Yes, Sam, we all know you have the biggest wand here.
But size doesn't matter.
It's how you flick the swish.
Okay, let's shift this one. All right, so we're not doing wands. I know Jordo threw in Patronus.
What's the plural of Patronus? Good. Is it Patronuses? Patronusi? Patroni?
I've always wondered.
It's not Patron, because that's just something we drink. I thought maybe golden snitches.
I'm thinking Horcruxes is another
I was
option.
thinking going dark with that, yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
dark Horcrux.
How many times do we have to split our soul for this episode?
Wow.
It's a lot of soul splitting.
All right, we're sold right there. We're going to award Horcruxes. Very
How many
good.
Horcruxes out of 30?
Yes.
So, as we dive into the wizarding world of Harry Potter, let's explain this a little bit to the best of our knowledge. And I think a good place to kind of start is, what is it that makes someone in this world? What makes someone a witch or wizard?
You're a wizard, Harry.
Exactly. It's a good starting place. So they did it in the books and movies, so why not us? Now, as I understand it, and you guys can fully correct me if I'm wrong, this is a straight up high school biology class. It is a gene that can be passed on through parents, yes or no. Sometimes magical parents pass something through and it doesn't get all magical. Sometimes non-magical parents can give it through to a kid, but it's a whole mess in there.
So we would say magic is a recessive gene. It's got to be a
Exactly.
recessive gene. All right.
That makes sense, yeah.
And I don't think it's ever like straight described exactly in the scientific terms of that.
No, because J.K. Rowling was just pulling it out of her butt. We know
yeah,
that.
pretty
But
much.
If we do believe it's as simple as one gene instead of like a whole number of genes and environmental factors like eye color, fun fact, that's not one gene, then we would believe that it would need to be a recessive gene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think it's safe to say. I kind of had a thought when I was like reading over when I was like thinking about this, and I had a thought that I thought of Star Wars and the like, I do not remember what they're called, but the
midichlorians.
Yes, midichlorians.
Yes.
Came back.
That thought made me really glad that J.K. Rowling didn't get into the science behind it, because it would have been midichlorians all over again.
You're not wrong.
We would have found there's actually miniaturized house elves running around the bloodstreams of the magic users.
Well, we all know the house elves do all the real work.
Absolutely.
That's true. Anyways, in this, if you have this genetic ability to do magic, you are, and assuming you're human, a witch or wizard. You innately can do a certain amount of magic, period. You're tapped into the magical forces of the world. However, to actually do what we consider most magic and throwing spells and potions and all this mess, you gotta go to school.
Now, hold on a second. We're going to talk about school, obviously. It's a huge part of the series. But
yes.
What makes a person stronger or weaker in this magic? Is it what they're born with? Or if they try hard enough, can they increase their abilities? What do we know?
I would say it's a combination. Because you see those like Neville that like are really bad at it at first, or Seamus, where they're really bad at it at first and exploding things, but then in the end they kind of gain the normal ability. And then there's Harry, who has like solid ability throughout.
What I think sort of gets explained kind of is that magic more or less is based on the strength of your will and intent.
Oh, yeah.
So if you have a strong enough will to use magic, you have stronger magic.
So anyone could have been Dumbledore strong if they just wanted it as much as Dumbledore, if they had the will for it?
And practiced really hard and had a specific magic item that, is unbeatable.
So we do agree that the study part is a component. For someone to maximize the potential, they got to get to work.
I would say so.
They got to go to school. Okay.
Definitely.
And then if that's not harnessed, that's when you go into that creature and magical beasts that like just kind of, they don't practice the magic and it creates like a blob of energy that becomes bad.
I want to believe that that's not canon in this world just because it feels messy.
It's really messy.
But it is. It is canon. It
really is. It's unfortunate.
This episode was easier and better if we ignored those movies.
But we're not going to.
You can't.
You're right.
Okay, so we have different ways people come to be magic. You already described this earlier, Zach. I don't think you used the labels, though. If somebody has both parents are magic, are wizards, wizard and... But they're both wizards. Do they say one is a witch? I mean, they use
They
wizard.
do, actually. They use witch and wizard.
Okay.
I kind of think of it like actor and actress, where you can call an actress an actor, but they're an actress is like an additional title kind of thing.
Okay.
That's kind of how
Okay.
I think of it.
If both the parents, though, are magic users, and the child becomes magical as well, they're a pureblood.
Yep.
But if only one has magic and one doesn't, then they're a half-blood. Now, that makes sense, but that doesn't mean they're only going to be half as powerful as someone who's a pureblood.
No, in fact, all of the possibilities have just as much magicalness actually in them. If we're believing it's a recessive gene, it means they need both genes. They need it from both parents. Just because their parents didn't have access to it doesn't mean they have any less.
Okay.
And in the same way, a non-magical using person, not in the wizarding world, in this stuff, it's called a muggle. We know that. If you're familiar with the series, you know that. If you are not familiar with the series, what are you doing? Get out. Don't be spoiled.
And of course, one of our biggest characters has parents who are muggles.
And so the nice term for that is muggle-born.
The nice term.
It's not the term we most think
Yeah.
of.
And the not so nice term, you
Mudblood.
mudblood. Yeah.
I
Nasty.
think Sam was the Slytherin coming out and just saying it.
I know.
Well, it's not like a bee with an itch. You know, I don't have to make up some fun way to say a nasty word here. It's
I
just
don't know.
a mudblood.
It's that bad or worse in this context.
That's how they see it for sure. It's like
Exactly.
definitely like a gasp when you hear it kind of thing.
Now, there is one more term that is completely ignored in the movies,
It's one of my favorites.
and that's a squib. A squib is someone who is born to magical parents. I believe it can be pureblood or half-blood, but they do not have the magical gene. They just don't. So life sucks for them.
They're just bitter. Yeah, they're just bitter. It's been a while since I dove into the books, honestly, but Filch, that's the
Filch,
right
yeah.
name, isn't it?
Argus
He's a
Filch.
squib,
He's like one of the biggest ones.
and that's
Yep.
why he's so bitter. Because he's surrounded by all this magic. He's part of the magical world, and he got nothing.
Knowing he's a squib makes the movie more entertaining. Like when you see him just sweeping, it's because you know he can't do anything easier.
He can't have magically it be sweet.
Yeah.
It probably did him a disservice in the movies to not share that about him.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
just see him as just a bitter, angry old man.
Yeah.
Dude, you suck. You know, there's no reason for it. That's not fair.
There's a scene in the books that kind of make you feel bad for him almost, where they find it's like a pamphlet for a magic class that they find in his desk.
Mhm.
And it makes you feel kind of bad for him for a minute because it doesn't, like, he's trying, but he can't.
Well, you gotta keep in mind and think, that's been his whole life.
Yeah.
So that's unfortunate.
So we dove into the background a little bit more
Yes.
now of these. Now, I kind of took us down there before we were about to jump into how do they grow into their potential, which was going to school. So what do we want? What do we need to know about that?
Let's hit the books. We're going to study a couple things here. We have to study our spells, our actual casting, and what that means. We have to study our magical items, our magical potion making, our magical creatures. We have to study our magical everything. I'm throwing magical in the front of this because some of these things quite literally are like, why did you need a magical version? There is a magical math.
That's,
Why?
I was thinking about it, and I'm convinced that they
Why?
threw like that class and like runes and stuff like that just to highlight how much of a nerd Hermione was. Because they really only listed as classes she takes when she overloads herself. It's like the only time they're talked about.
And I went through and tried to look for a list of various different magical things, specifically like subjects or things that are taught, and some of them I'm sure I missed because they are just like mentioned once because Hermione's a nerd. It's good. We're all nerds. But she is a wizard nerd, so it's a step further.
Speaking of nerds, where is your sorting hat? Shouldn't that be in
Oh.
view?
Hold on, let me go put it on.
I didn't even know he had a sorting hat.
See? Yes, he does. Since
I
childhood.
love it.
It hung in his bedroom for years and years. Actually, it was still hanging in his bedroom here in the house until we moved him to Texas. So
That's
now he's
amazing.
still got it. So nobody who's listening to this podcast can see this, but we'll have to get a picture onto the Instagram and get something onto Discord. Oh,
That's
he's
so
Steven
cool.
wearing it. There it is.
I love it.
Gryffindor! Yeah. And he's getting out his wand. He's
Oh,
got
man.
the whole
Not that
shebang.
kind. Not that kind of podcast.
Not that kind of wand. That's right. Keep it clear.
I think Rachel's getting a picture for y'all.
Yes.
Sweet.
I have 2 wands, one of which is a custom one, and then Drew, my husband, has a wand. He has Sirius Blacks. I have Neville's.
Now, admit it. Have you guys ever dueled?
No.
Oh.
It's a little
You're
too
missing
larpy for
out.
me.
I also think you would win hands down because
Yes.
Drew has no chance.
No, I think he'd throw the killing curse at me right away.
Which brings a back to an interesting point of what are spells, what do they do, and why do we have them? I mean,
Yes.
I mentioned earlier,
Good question.
it's about strength of will and intent. That's what actually brings magical effects. That's what does magic. So why have little bits of words and flicking of wands and stuff? Why is this a thing?
Inquiring minds want to know.
There's another thing that's hinted at in the books, and they kind of hint at like knowing additional information, but like almost the theory behind it in order to help you like gain the ability to cast spells, but they don't really explain it. There's a lot that's unexplained.
And it's demonstrated, it's canon that with enough experience, you don't need to use the words anymore.
Yeah.
No.
You don't necessarily need a wand to do some of the magic.
Nope.
Dumbledore truly does it. Voldemort does it. Doesn't have to say a word, just zap, things happen. Yet when they first learn, they're taught these incantations, these specific words. So Zach, I think you have something to say about this.
Technically speaking, both words and wands are simply tools. They aid and focus the magical intent. They give specific shape to your will to produce a specific desired effect, and the wand helps give it direction and makes it a little easier to get through, kind of lowering that.
Yeah.
Ron Weasley needed a lot of focus and attention.
Yeah.
They don't learn the nonverbal. Well, yeah, the nonverbal
Year,
until the 6th year. Yeah. So, and I mean, Ron does struggle with that, so it makes sense.
Ron couldn't even pronounce certain words right, and therefore things would go kaplooey. That was very funny.
Now, to be fair, most people have a hard time with actually pronouncing them right, considering most of these spells are actually some offshoot of Latin words or just gibberish that got made up.
And it's hard because most of us got used to them by reading them, so we taught ourselves how to say them in whatever way we think is correct.
And then anyone who didn't, the movies got so popular that some of the most popular spells, just everyone knows how to say them.
Yeah.
But see, this is where I see a flaw in Rowling's magic system. In that, okay, the words are just giving you some structure to the magic you're learning. And yet, if you say the word wrong, the magic goes wonky. I mean, the scene where, Wingardium Leviosa, or something like that. I close. I think I got the first word wrong.
You have to say it with the right accent, otherwise it doesn't quite work.
It's Leviosa, not
Leviosa, yeah. But those slight differences in pronunciation, it wouldn't work, or it didn't work quite as well, and that really shouldn't have mattered. I don't think that really should have mattered if the magic was really just power within them that they're using.
Maybe that only matters when you're first learning, when you don't have intent at all.
And if words and wands are tools in and of themselves, it's not just any words. It does have to be words that are said properly to give a desired intent and effect. So if you do say them wrong, you're essentially using the wrong tool for the job. You're using a wrench to try and hammer in a nail. It can work, but it's not going to work quite right.
Yeah.
Now, I have written down a number of different kinds of spells and stuff here. I want both my dad and Sam not to look at this list for a moment.
Oh.
Okay. Not looking.
I'm going to read it off, and you guys can decide however you want to split this up or whatever, but you tell me what it is.
Okay. We can go back and forth.
Transfiguration.
Sam's going to win. I'm telling you, Sam's going to win.
One of you can go first, and then I'll take the next one.
And I won't look at the Discord either, so Jordo can go ahead and try to guess these two.
You can guess too. Most of these, they're not hard to guess, most of them. Some of them, you will be able to split up who's a real, true fan.
I also read your list at length last night, so that probably helps
Sam has them memorized.
And I didn't. I was just glad he made a list. So, blind faith.
So the first of these, it's a slow ball, easy pitch. Transfiguration.
You can go ahead and go first. I can take the next one.
Wait, you want me to say the magic words that do that? That's what we're doing?
No. You can just tell me what it does.
Oh,
Like, what's the point?
goodness! I was like, wait, did I misunderstand what we're doing now?
I cannot name a
have-
transfiguration spell, so
Vera
I know what
Verita.
transfiguration is. Okay, that's
Vera
where they
Verita is turning. Oh, sorry. Go
they
ahead.
change themselves into another shape, such as when they convert themselves into a cat. That's transfiguration.
kind of.
Yeah, I was being a nerd. I have the turning an animal into a water goblet spell in my head.
That's the
didn't
one you
know it.
have.
Yeah, Vera Verita.
Because I think you're actually thinking more of when you're an animagus and you can turn into an animal, but transfiguration is turning like an object into an animal or vice versa, or like
Those are
an
two
object
different
into
things,
a-
actually.
Don't we see McGonagall change herself into a cat?
Because she's an animagus.
That's through Animagus. She
She
teaches
was?
Transfiguration, though.
Oh man!
She also
see?
just
So it is confusing.
She makes it confusing.
That's just messy. That's messy.
Um,
That's coming back in the Horcrux ratings. I'm telling you. All right.
But Transfiguration specifically is just turning one thing into another thing, especially in its form or appearance.
So the very first one, I got it wrong. Gotcha. Okay,
You got
next.
it like 50%.
Because you don't need to know transfiguration to do animagus or magus or
Whatever you want to call it. Sam, what's a charm?
a charm is like I kind of just consider them basic spells. So like you're just like Wingardium Leviosa is an example. You're making something float, or like when you just wash something, or etc. Like that. It's just the kind of basic stuff is kind of what I think.
Technically, you're not wrong, and that I think is a normal, good understanding. But there is a little bit better.
You totally said that, like, but you're not right.
Well, she's not.
Yeah. That one's always tricky for me. It's very vague.
If Transfiguration is changing something's form, Charm is changing or adding to something's function.
Mm.
It's giving properties to something that it didn't usually have, or changing its behavior.
That makes sense.
And so, in that way, a lot of the basic things, making something float, making a broom sweep, animating something, yes, it's a charm. But it's because you're giving it a property it doesn't usually have.
That makes sense.
Back to my dad, what's a jinx?
When you do something to someone so they're kind of like light cursed.
Yeah, that is correct. I'm just glad you didn't say
I like that. Cursed light.
Trademarked, right there.
Yeah.
Right
And
there.
it's spelled Lite.
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
I'm glad we didn't say it was when two people say the same spell at the same time.
Now you owe me a soda. Yeah, it's not that.
That's when they crash into each other.
So moving down the list, Sam, what's a hex?
A hex is like curse medium. It's like a step above a jinx, but below a curse.
Correct. Because
I can never think of an example for a hex, though. Oh, like, no, that's a jinx. Yeah, I can never think of an example for a hex.
Yeah, I honestly couldn't tell you for sure.
Jonah.
The only thing that I can... No, not that
Jonah
kind.
hex.
The only thing I can think of is it might technically be a hex, the spell on Voldemort's name.
Oh, I think that is. Yeah, I think that is. That sounds about right.
Okay.
That's one of my favorite spells, too. Like, I just think it's the most interesting portion of the story. I love that one.
And for all of you listening at home, when I'm being quote unquote knowledgeable about these things and then horribly wrong, come at me, please. I want to see the engagement. Finally, then, Dad, we get to curses.
Curses are the really bad things. There's no light involved. You're doing nasty, nasty, evil things like killing someone with a word.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Or excruciatus, and all those nasty things.
Definitely not a spell, but we're gonna go with it.
Oh, what was I thinking of? Cruciatus. That's what I was thinking of.
That's the name of the spell. The spell is Crucio. It's confusing that they named the spell, but then it's like
the Cruciatus curse.
Yeah,
See?
exactly.
So there you go. All
it's
right.
just a very
But
complex.
if I said Cruciatus, it wouldn't work because the words matter, but they don't matter. Ah!
I like to pretend that it's an intentional, like, being confusing about the curse name because it would be easier to say if you knew it.
That's true.
Not actually, like, a valid thing that's written down. I just want it to be true. Now, Sam, you get the easy ball this time. What's a counterspell? You play D&D. You should know this.
A counterspell is fighting, like defense. It's fighting the other spell. It's making it so the spell that's being cast at you is relevant, pretty much.
Canceled out.
Correct. And now we get, not quite to the dumb ones. There is a... I'm sorry.
The dumb ones. Okay.
There's one more that I kind of put as a dumb one because it exists, but it's one we don't see happen too much. It's a healing spell. It's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
There are actual spells that do that. It's not the most common method we see, but it does exist.
Okay, so these were all about the spells.
Yes.
But then there's other magical things involved too.
Like magic math.
Let's forget about magic math. That's stupid. How about the other magical things?
It sounds too much like magic.
I would love to read a passage trying to describe what the magic math is, because
it's just a calculus textbook.
Yeah, that's all I can think of.
It's non-physics based calculus.
That's pretty much magic to me.
Yeah, pretty much. So Zach, are you saying you'd be good at magic math?
No, I like physics. I guess it's calculus-based physics or non-calculus-based physics. I got it eventually. It's been a while since I did calculus, guys.
It's for the better.
Like 2 years. But Dad, you wanted to go into some magical things that weren't spells. Let's pop into them. What we got?
Well, like, don't we have potions, for example?
We do. It's a fun little thing that is non-spell related, and we'll dive a little deeper into in a moment. But you make drinks, kind of.
Pretty much.
But in this world, we also have magical plants, magical creatures. If you can put the word magical in front of it, it probably exists, but we may or may not know much about it.
Magical astrology.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's that wonderful magical thing that doesn't seem to be a spell, but seems to be tied to magic that everybody hated as the worst class, divination. Where you just somehow can do nothing. I mean, most people can't do a thing with it, and yet every now and then somebody gets, bam, they get hit, and they can divine something. But it's like, why is there a class? You can't learn divination. That was pretty obvious. And yet it's a class. They all need to study, practice. What? So they can go on and be false psychics with their little hand palm sign up on a billboard somewhere? I mean, what was the point?
I think a lot of the complaint was the professor. Because when Ferenz became the divination professor, people seemed to understand things better because he was explaining it from like an astrology point of view and like the stars and reading the stars. But I agree, it was just kind of pointless because he wasn't a teacher when they first started, so what was the point of the class?
I appreciate your perspective, Sam, though. It's great because I'm here kind of as the one that's bashing things, and you're a good apologist for Harry Potter. It's good. You bring in the defense, even while acknowledging, okay, it might be a little weak, but there's
I'm not
a
apologizing for J.K. Rowling, though. She's her own thing.
That's fair. We're leaving the author separate from the work here.
That's exactly how to do it.
Okay, so where are you taking us now, Zach?
We will be getting into some of the items in particular, some of the potions and potion making, and even some of the magical creatures. But I want to finish our conversation on spells, kind of round it out by talking about some of the things you can't do. There are established things that don't work in this world.
Really? Okay.
One of the first, most important here is kind of known as the rule of creation, and it's basically the law of diminishing returns, but on magical creation and duplication. Any magical copy or creation will never be as good or last as long as an actual physically made thing. In the same way, there are a few things that you can't make out of nothing or copy, including food. There's supposedly like 5 of these things. We know of food, and we have some guesses on some others. But we know food partially because, like in Hogwarts, that grand feast and stuff, we see like Dumbledore just make food everywhere. He's not actually making the food. There are kitchens run by house elves directly below that, and he's just teleporting it up. Like we said, house elves do everything. The 2 other rules I want to mention, I guess I have 3 more. Sorry. First 2 of the next set. English is hard, guys. Let's just switch over to Latin. It's not going to be any harder, right?
Oh yeah, that worked so much better in Harry Potter. Fake Latin. Yeah. So much better.
We'll use Pig Latin.
I can do Pig Latin.
I'm not sure Zach can.
Probably not. It's like English, but a little hard. I can do it sometimes, not fluently. Sorry.
NK Uye understand Ame?
Yes, I can. But the first two here are things having to do with life. Specifically, you can't be truly immortal. That's got a lot of weird qualifiers.
You can try your darndest.
Mm-hmm.
What about that
can-
stone? There was that stone.
Allows you to extend your life, not make you immortal.
Plus, I think you have to have it.
Yep,
for it to work.
Nicholas Flamel had to use it to make a potion every so many years or so to extend his life. And if he didn't, he would eventually die.
Now, for Rob, Emmeline, and all of our other listeners in the UK, I want to call it the Philosopher's Stone, as it should have been all along. There you go.
And for everyone else, it's the Sorcerer's Stone. Because we're dumb.
Because Americans are dumb. Yeah.
I think there's some other countries that do philosophers.
Yeah, it was quite literally, I think, people in American audiences were concerned that we would think it had something to do with philosophy.
Yeah.
Which valid.
And be completely confused or like wouldn't sell because of that.
Now, I said a moment ago, it's because Americans are dumb. That's not true. It's because publishers believe Americans are dumb and wouldn't have been able to figure it out.
Which might sometimes be true. It might also not be true.
When I found out the difference, I was insulted. I'm like, come on, really?
I'd say most Americans who read fantasy aren't dumb.
Yeah.
And I think that makes me safe. I think. I hope.
But I mean, I think since the book was also originally meant for children, more or less, maybe they were thinking parents will see that and be like, oh, that's probably too high of a level for them. I have no idea.
It was still reeling from the D&D shock.
I think it might have gone better. Because when Harry Potter was being published, there was a big kickback from some groups of parents about,
That's the devil magic.
you know, witches and wizards, and then you put on the book cover, sorcerer. I'm like, if they just said Philosopher's Stone, parents have been, oh, this looks like a nice book. Here, Joey, go ahead and read this.
It's going to make
Probably.
them smarter.
You'll know philosophy.
Finally, I can have philosophy talks with my child.
Right.
What I always wanted. So that's, you can't live forever. If you do die, you can't really come back. That's this other rule here. There's one against resurrection. And these are like rules of nature, not laws.
No bringing them back from the dead.
There are actual wizarding government and laws, but these are just laws of nature. There are ways to kind of bring people back, but it's like a ghost, which isn't really bringing them back or having them around. It's a shadow of what they were. There is a specific item that can allow people to come back and stay and talk, but they're not physically really there.
And then the longer they're there, the more they kind of diminish, and it just gets
And
depressing.
often it's depressing both for the one who's not dead and the one who is dead, and it's just not a good time for anybody. Harry Potter got dark near the end, guys.
Mm-hmm.
It did.
That one's the hollow that never made sense to me.
Not quite grim, but definitely dark. Now, the one last rule here isn't really a rule anymore because we learned it's not impossible. For a long, long time, it was believed unsupported flight was impossible. But then our main bad guy, Mr. Voldemort, he comes around and goes, hey, psych, I can fly unaided.
Which is so irritating.
So apparently you can do it.
Because they don't even talk about it. They're just like, why can he do that? And that's where the conversation ends.
It's literally like the best, biggest breakthrough in a millennia for wizards or something. And nothing.
They're like, shoot.
In theory, maybe he was making his clothes fly, and they carried him.
I like that.
Well, that's actually a method that is talked about. That is an attempted method people have tried and stuff, and it is possible to do it, but that still counts as aided flight. Supposedly, Voldemort succeeded unaided, so wasn't doing that.
But did he do it naked?
Yeah, I was supposed to say, how did he prove that?
He could have just been lying. He could absolutely have been lying.
Because I know the dude lies, okay? He lies, so
maybe it is still impossible.
I hope he wasn't flying around naked. I want to add that. Like,
we don't need to see that.
especially
The next
from him.
meme that's going to drop in our Discord is a naked Voldemort.
I mean, we did get that, but it's like a little naked baby Voldemort.
Ugh.
Oh, that's right.
Weirdly gelatinous.
Now that I think of it, we get like 2 of those moments, and they both look different, but still gross.
Different directors.
Yeah.
Now, we do learn throughout the series there are certain emotional impacts and things that are magical that aren't spells per se. There's only one that's really worth mentioning, and it's worth mentioning because it's more powerful than literally anything else in the series. But it's never explained how or why. It's just like, yeah, duh, it's more powerful. That's love.
I would like to add that reading what you sent me in the notes, my personal notes, I wrote in between asterisks, eye roll. Because it's just really cheesy.
The sappy meter is going off here right now. It's like, really? Oh, the power of love. Of course, that can overcome everything. Yeah.
And quite literally, it's like, bad guy can't overcome it because he was never loved as a child, so he doesn't know what love is or how to love. And it's like, well, now I'm depressed.
Yeah.
You know, there are some authors that when they sit down to write something, they have the whole thing planned out. And when we get this in this series, it's like, okay, JK, you had a story and you're getting to the finish and you're like, oh crap, now how do I explain this?
You don't.
Love! I'll go with love. You know, she made something up and it didn't land. It didn't land the plane right.
It feels like that was the plan all along, and she was just searching for how do I explain it, and then went, I don't have to. You had to.
Oh.
Well, now it's true that authors don't always have to explain things. Sometimes it's better being left unexplained, so we can spend years on fandom websites postulating and going through all of what really happened. It didn't work this time. That's our humble opinion.
Well, it kind of did. She, as the author, spent years posting on other websites more information that is canon, but isn't from the series, so we don't really care. Sorry.
I'm glad she explained the love thing, just because I am the kind of person who likes clarity, and I'm not one to postulate and like look at theories, but I don't like what she went with. I think she could have gone with like, Harry has some kind of crazy powerful magic gene that fought Voldemort. I would have believed that better than love. Like, that just...
You would have believed midichlorians better.
I probably would have believed midichlorians better than love, honestly, because it makes me cringe.
Minidobbies.
Now...
Dobbies. Minidobbies.
I like that.
Now that we've all agreed love is dumb, we're gonna move on to magical things. We talked briefly about wands. We compared sizes. Turns out size doesn't actually matter about the strength. One of you guys take, what is like a wand? We've been talking about wands, but what is it? What's it made of? Why does it work?
It's a piece of wood that's got something magical embedded inside that gives it the focus.
And I think it's like magical wood too. I think it's kind of...
Really?
I don't know. I
always thought it was just wood. I mean, they use different types of wood, but I didn't think it was the wood that really did it. It was what they embedded inside.
That's for sure.
But I could be totally wrong.
No, I think you're probably right. I was just guessing.
Different woods have different properties based on like what the wood itself would do. So like
but they can do all the same spells.
A stiff and unbendy, unyielding wand takes a will that can like break in through that to do it. You have to fit the right tool to the right user. Yes, this is getting very weird.
I'm sorry. Oh man.
Hey.
Like, for example, my wand is surprisingly springy, and so I probably... or swishy, sorry. Surprisingly swishy.
Hey, wait, swishy or squishy? Which one did you just say?
Swishy with a W, not a Q.
Okay, because I was very concerned.
Not squishy. Swishy.
I'm trying to figure out if we're going to need the explicit rating on this podcast episode or not. I'm just not sure yet. So,
do we not usually put it on?
No, I don't usually.
Oh, might be. Sorry for every time I swear.
Yeah, but your swear really doesn't even count as swearing these days.
It's wizard swears, like that Harry Potter Puppet Pals episode.
Wizard swear.
Okay, so all the wands do have a substance inside, though. It's like a dragon... Heartstring or a feather of a phoenix or something. I mean, there's something inside
unicorn
that's going to be how it channels the magic.
Yep.
They also have some... I don't think sentience is the right word.
Of course it is.
Almost.
I mean, they retain some memory.
The wand chooses the wizard.
Well, that's true.
Yeah. And it does have memory for sure too, because like when, for example, when Harry's wand breaks and he's trying to just kind of steal another one, most of them don't work well for him because he didn't win them, he stole them. And so they're still loyal to their master.
I think it's another one of those things that's just not really well explained in the series.
Honestly, I would take like a small little novella of just, doesn't even have to be something special, just like a little scene in a wand shop or something, but written from the wand's perspective.
Oh, that's interesting.
I think that'd be interesting, and we'd learn a lot.
I thought you were gonna like go from the wand maker's perspective, which would be interesting too, but from the wand's perspective, even more so.
And I'm sure if you look it up, you'll find fanfic out there that does that already.
Probably.
That's right. Just look for something that talks about a bunch of wands.
Yeah, and they're varying sizes.
Yep. The stiff ones, the wiggly ones,
How am I the most mature person on this podcast episode? What is happening?
Well, partly because you're driving this episode, so I don't have to worry about it. I can screw around and see you try to get us back on track for a change. It's hilarious. Loving it.
So we'll move on. Wands themselves are magical. But there are plenty of magical items that aren't in and of themselves magical. We talked about charms and the ability to do different things out of normal objects, giving them properties. These are just bewitched objects. But some of them go even a step beyond and act like magical objects in and of themselves, even though it's just a bewitchment. The most key example of this is broomsticks. Broomsticks are a way of aided flight. Quite literally, the witch with the pointy hat going across the sky going, ha ha ha, because she can fly. But it's not really flying, it's more the broom has been charmed to give flight. And there's some kind of art to it. They are not all equal. And I don't know what that means.
It's not explained.
I don't know why some brooms are faster than others.
It is not explained.
Nope. But a Nimbus 3000, that's what you want, man.
Except the firebolt's faster.
I think our first thought, yeah, we want the firebolt. But I think my brain wants to go to science, like they, in technology, like they hone in, like computers get faster, like brooms get faster, but...
Technology, yeah, that makes sense.
But also they don't do technology. So it's got to be some kind of stronger bewitching.
Which is something we didn't really touch on too much in this world. A lot of magic just is doing the same thing that technology is doing, but for wizards, and wizards are, for the most part, pretty clueless about Muggle technology.
Oh, yeah.
Which I had a thought when I was going over the notes. I realized I'm wondering what the point of the Muggle studies class is, considering wizards think they know things about Muggles, but are always wrong. Like, that Muggle studies class has got to be so inaccurate.
Yeah.
I like to think
totally.
it's an attempt to explain things. Kind of like we have things like ancient civilizations, and we might be horribly wrong, but we're attempting to explain things.
That makes sense. And it could be history, too, which is pretty just cut and dry.
Now we've got 3 special items coming up here. These are the Deathly Hallows. There's a whole story that goes with them. They're funky, fun, whatever. Mostly we don't care that much, except to say these are 3 special items. One of them barely shows up in the books. One of them shows up, but we barely really know it's there. And one of them is there all the time.
But you can't see it.
You can when it's not on someone.
True.
So, Sam, Dad, either one of you guys know enough. What's what?
Well, you got the Invisibility Cloak.
Yes, that one's the one we know and see, or rather don't.
It plays a role multiple times throughout the series. But we don't know it's a Deathly Hallow until the end.
We don't know, yeah. We think it's one of those crappy ones that's going to stop working eventually.
Turns out there are other ways to be invisible. Other charms, potions and all that. This is the only perfect invisibility.
Yep. And then there, again, a little rusty here, there was a special wand.
The Elder Wand.
Thank you. The Elder Wand is another of the Hallows.
Meant to be unbeatable.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why when you mentioned Dumbledore and someone with a strong enough will who really wanted to could be as powerful as him, technically, no. Because for much of the series, he has the Elder Wand. He cannot technically be beaten until eventually he is, because reasons, and he dies.
Because he falls off the tower.
Spoiler alert.
Dumbledore dies?
Hey, if they listen to midweek specials, they already know that. We already talked about that.
All right, that's true. Yep, twice.
So many times. We just really like that he dies.
I just realized just how boring his death. Not boring, but like how his death is not magical. It's like he just falls off of a building.
I mean, he gets killed and then falls off of a building.
No, he falls off and that's his kill. That's how he dies. He gets disarmed and then falls.
Well, I definitely thought, because like the way it works in the movie, I thought followed the book in that Malfoy disarms and then Snape kills
Oh,
and he falls off.
I think you're right. I think you got me on that one. Yeah, that sounds right. And then he doesn't have his wand, so that's how.
That's why Voldemort thought he needed to kill Snape to get access to the wand.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. That's right. Yeah, you're right. Good job.
Of course, in Zach's earlier memories, he didn't just fall off the building. He got flung.
He got flung to the horizon.
Far, far away, which is a pretty good image.
It's like a closing sunset-ish thing, and he just woo. If you've ever played Super Smash Bros, that one type where like they get sent out of the arena and then become smaller and smaller and smaller until they just twinkle in the horizon, that's what I imagined.
Gotcha.
And for the few nerd fans of that game, you all just started laughing with me, and I love it.
That's like the one Mario game I never played.
Yep. Okay, I don't remember what the third Deathly Hallow is. I got nothing.
That is the Stone of Resurrection, which is one of the more irritating ones for me because it's barely discussed and all of a sudden Harry has it.
He just has it at the end.
Yeah.
Apparently it's been around since like the beginning.
Because it was in Voldemort's dad's ring. But like,
technically speaking, at the beginning of the series, Dumbledore has all three.
What?
Who gives Harry the Invisibility Cloak?
Dumbledore.
I'm pretty sure it's technically McGonagall who gets it from Dumbledore.
No, Dumbledore had borrowed it from Harry's dad.
Then yeah, Dumbledore had all three at the beginning of the series.
Yeah, Dumbledore did. Okay, I thought you were saying Voldemort did.
No.
Okay. Yeah, Dumbledore had all three at one point.
And yet they're only a big thing at the end, and they still don't really make a difference.
I know.
Although Harry did find the stone a little helpful.
Yes.
He gets to have some closure.
I will say the third time around reading it that I just reread, that scene made me cry a little bit. It made me tear up because it's like his family is like, hey man, we're here with you, and it's just really cute. Really
See,
sweet.
and that made it onto a discussion of a list of things recently in one of our episodes for that very reason. It's very moving.
Yeah, I love that part.
Now, leaving these uber powerful items that we don't care about behind, I'm being very judgy. I'm sorry. There are some items that I know nothing about, except that they have total sentience. They are not bewitched, as far as I know. They are not magically created in the sense of wands. But like the sorting hat, which I put on, is legit its own creature, but it's a hat.
Yeah.
Can you explain that, Sam?
I want to say that like maybe there's a scene where they're trying to explain it, where like Ron explains it to Harry in the first time in the banquet hall, and is like, oh, it's a bewitched hat. They have a hat bewitched or something. But like, I don't know for sure. I really am not sure if they talk.
I mean, the four founding wizards of Hogwarts could have created this hat to help sort students into the various houses they were making. I mean, so it could be bewitched. They could have created it for this purpose, but it's never explained.
It makes me think of Brooms, where it's like it's made magical, but we don't know how. So maybe there's like building materials that are magical, like there's fabrics or not plastics per se, but like woods and stuff that are magical and give magical ability to what you make with it, but they don't talk about it.
And is there a sorting beret? You know, the different schools have there'd be a sorting. What's the Russian hat? You know, you got to have for Durmstrang. They've got
the
sorting.
Other schools
what
realize that it's actually really not conductive to children and their social emotional growth, nor their educational growth, to at a very early age separate and judge them based on just snap judgments about their character. So they don't do that.
What, the other schools are smarter?
I think you meant conducive, by the way. Conducive, not conductive. That's rather shocking.
Be electrocuted.
Conducive.
Those exist. We don't actually know a lot about them. Let's jump. Different magical thing, potions. Potions are really cool.
Also, I want to say really quick, can I add? There is a few magical objects that you left out of the
I
list
left a lot out of the list.
Okay. I did know
But
it was on
worthy.
purpose.
Go ahead.
There were a few. So port keys, Horcruxes, and time turners weren't even mentioned in the lists that you had, and I felt like those three were really important in the series.
Then list them. That's on you
Okay.
now. No,
Well,
you're right.
We have port keys, which are magically like in the books. It's a spell. It's kind of described as a spell put onto just an ordinary object to leave the location at a certain time and arrive at a new location. So it's like it makes you travel if you're touching
It's like
it.
a teleport tool.
Yeah. And then Horcruxes, which is
What we're rating out
splitting
of.
your soul. Yes, splitting your soul, usually through like a heinous murder, and putting it into an object that has to be destroyed in order for you to be killed, pretty
Mhm.
much.
Now, does it have to be a heinous murder or just a murder? I feel like a murder in and of itself is heinous.
I think it has to be like a super relevant one because they kind of list off the people that Voldemort's killed a lot more than 7 people. And so I think that it's based off of whether or not it's like a relevant murder to your plot line. Because, like, for example, one of them was because he killed his dad, I think. No, yeah, his dad. Like, another one's from killing Lily. And then, like, stuff like that. So I think it has to be, like, a relevant murder, which is
It
just.
has to matter
odd.
or like be done in a special way
Yeah.
or something.
Something
Okay.
like that. It's
Well,
not
sorta.
not super specific.
Exactly.
And then time turners, which you spin and they let you travel through time.
Because time travel does get messed with, and yet it's at least aware. Okay, this has always been one of my issues here, right? Time travel is a known thing and is possible. And you're told don't mess with that because it can have problems. But also like they do,
Yeah.
and it doesn't really have that big of problems.
I think they try to put rules into it by like being like, okay, this is a really big deal that Hermione got one for her classes, and it's really only for her. And then there's a whole plot line in Cursed Child, if we want to get into that, where they destroy time turners because they are too powerful. And it's like a whole thing. And then when they're at the Ministry in book 5, there's like the room of time turners. And it's like just they're all just kind of sitting there because they're so picky with using them, I think.
In this world, I almost wonder how many things are there magical that most people think don't exist, but a few special people know do exist?
Because it's restricted and untrusted.
You know, and this is like an example. How many people don't even know time turning is a thing?
Yeah.
I'm such a Harry Potter nerd that my thought is everybody, but probably not.
Wait, the Ministry of Magic kind of just a bunch of jerks. For
Yeah.
good reason, sometimes. But they're jerks. They're the government. They have to be.
And they're not exactly ruled by fantastic people either.
Not always.
Now, we've talked about magic spells, we've talked about magic objects, we've talked about magic potions. Where do we stick flue powder? What the heck is that?
Oh, I forgot about flue powder. I would say that's almost like a potion.
I'm going to put it in a magical item similar to a wand. Flue powder is another aid and tool to focus the magical energy specifically. You need to clearly and specifically name the place. That is your other focusing tool. But it's you, in essence, releasing a massive burst of power and going somewhere.
I like that. That sounds right to me.
Okay. I can live with that.
Unfortunately, I came up with that on the fly. I don't think it's in the books.
No.
Wish it was.
It's not.
It's just there in the books.
All right. Is there anything else we need to talk about related to the magic of Harry Potter, Zach?
I think you wanted to get more into potions.
I don't think we really said too much. The big thing about potions to mention, it doesn't require you to actually be magical all the time to do.
Yeah.
So a muggle can use a potion?
You use magical ingredients and sometimes magical processes, but usually just science, basically. It's chemistry with magical ingredients, time, effort, and precision, and you can create magical effects that non-magical people can use.
I think it's something that they tried to I think it's something they know is not well thought out because in the little Harry Potter game where you play a character, you cast a spell on it to make it work after you mix the ingredients. And so I think they know there's an issue with the magic system for potions because that's not discussed in the books at all.
Mm-hmm. But I do believe it's believe that a non-magical person could drink a potion and it would have an effect.
Do we ever see that? I don't think we ever see that.
Yeah, no,
Surely somebody would have slipped something into Filch's tea. I mean, come on. Somebody would have.
It's very likely, actually. That sounds like something Fred and George might have actually done in the books.
Mhm.
Filch seems like
Totally.
the kind of guy who'd like would not ever have a drink where you could see it. He just like doesn't trust anyone.
That's
Ever.
valid.
Last thing to briefly mention is magical creatures. These range all over the place in mythology, and honestly, J.K. Rowling grabbed from so many sources.
Anything she wanted.
Didn't really do justice to a lot of those sources, but we're going to leave most of that alone. What we will kind of mention is that some of these creatures, like house elves, can actually do magic, kind of cast spells as well, and sometimes better than people.
And house elves are the only example I could think of, too.
Yeah, there are other things
They have
that do
different
magical
rules, too.
things.
The
But, like-
centaurs, they had some kind of divination ability,
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so that was
that was
magical.
the closest I could think of.
And like
yeah.
Phoenix Tears heal.
At Gringotts, the goblins, they've got some magical ability. It's not real clearly laid out, but it's how they protect everything. They use
It's one
magic.
of those weird fantasy things where you kind of feel like goblins and house elves are basically the same, but only because people
One's rich and one's not.
well, because people don't really know the distinction between the two. It's there, but like people are just racist and don't care. And that feels
Yeah.
terrible. But true?
In my head, it's almost like, well, bring it back to D&D. It's almost like gnomes versus goblins in my head. Like, they're almost more, house elves are almost more like gnomes, kinda. Not really. They're just different.
And this confusion goes way back in fantasy. I mean, the goblins and orcs going back to Tolkien's day is confusing. Is there a difference? I'm not sure in Tolkien's world. I don't think there is. So, they basically look the same.
Meh, the goblins are uglier
Yeah. Meaner.
and dressed better.
Yeah.
But I do believe that kind of brings us to a close on the things that we know and need to talk about so that we can rate the system, especially because in almost every area we went into, we eventually got to conjecture and had no clue what we were talking about.
Yes, so that's it's gonna make its mark on our ratings for sure. So let's do it. We're figuring out how many Horcruxes for each of these now. And the first one, consistency of definition. We're saying, okay, to what degree is this magic system following clearly defined rules? You know, that
It's not how clear are those rules, but rather the rules that it sets, does it break them?
I don't know. Does anybody ever fly when flying's impossible?
Apparently, supposedly.
And is it explained? No.
I think part of the issue for me here is there are a lot of like breaking of things, and then it said, oh no, that wasn't really breaking. I just didn't teach you why it's not breaking. But then we're not actually taught why it wasn't breaking either.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is legit sometimes, and authors use that where you just don't know everything yet.
But usually
It's not that I broke a rule, it's just I
explain.
didn't reveal enough of the rule on purpose. Yeah, this one, So we do have some descriptors on here. To be 5 Horcruxes, the definition of this magic system would have to be set in stone. Nothing is ever broken.
So it's definitely not that.
And at the far other end, it's vague and it bends to the plot constantly. Where on that spectrum do we want to put this one?
I'm thinking 2, and I really hate that I'm thinking 2, but it's just, I don't know.
I was split between a 2 and a 3, so...
I like 2.
Sorry, HP. You're down at a 2 so far.
Yeah, no, it's not good.
All right, now we get to clarity. So how well is the magic system revealed to the reader? Jordo in the Discord has helped us out here. He has said it's clear as mudbloods. And our descriptors.
Number 1 is clear as mud.
Yeah.
So now it's clear as mudbloods. The opposite end is crystal clear. And this is not crystal clear. This is nowhere near crystal
I honestly
clear.
think clear as mudbloods might need to be the new bottom end of the scale.
I do kind of like it.
But also, mudbloods are one of the more clear things in the series.
Right? So are we going to say this is genuinely a 1? We've never given something a 1 yet.
No, I probably wouldn't, actually. I'd give it another...
Okay.
No, because I think there's some stuff that's pretty well laid out. but there's also a lot of stuff that's not.
We all know what Avada Kedavra is. We all know brooms fly. So there's certain things that are pretty clearly laid out for us.
I think I'm willing to give it a 3 because if you view it as a soft magic system, it's pretty clear. It follows and it makes sense for the story. It's just that we're judging it like hard magic systems, and it doesn't live up like that.
Because they go to school to learn the rules, and then they find out there aren't rules really. They're kind of all wishy-washy. So, all right. I can be sold on a 3, Sam. You think so? A 3?
Mm-hmm.
I also felt bad about the last 2 and didn't want to give another 2.
I want to know really quick. I have to know for the first one for consistency. Maybe, more for consistency of definition. Is anything a 5? Have you guys given anything a 5?
We might have.
We might have.
We might have given Mistborn a 5.
I have to look at the archives here to see that.
I think plenty of things have gotten 4s. I'm not sure what all has gotten 5s on that one.
That gives me faith in the fantasy community. That makes me happy to hear.
Yeah, we gave Mistborn a 5 on consistency of definition. We also gave Warbreaker. So 2 Brandon Sanderson ones.
Sanderson is 2 for 2.
That's the only ones that have gotten a 5 for that one. Yep.
Good to know.
And considering he basically reinvented hard magic systems, that's fair.
Yeah.
Makes
Good
sense.
on him.
All right. And this is a good time to point out that where we actually rate this magic system is not equivalent to how good is the book.
No, not at all.
No, we're talking about the magic system. The story can still rock. We had one of the ones we reviewed where the magic system scores were not very good, even though it's a wonderful series, because the author didn't care. It was about the story. The magic just served the story. It had nothing to do with how great the magic system is. And I'm talking about Lord of the Rings, Middle Earth for that one.
That's not surprising. Okay. It's not super specific.
It got one of our worst scores. But
yeah, Jordo found that hard to accept.
Let's see how Harry Potter does with that, though.
That's right. We might set a new record.
So far, it's low.
We might be looking at a new low. What's the next one?
Okay, so power. Just how strong is this magic? We've got on the top end, godlike. On the bottom end, weak. Really doesn't do anything. It does very little. So where do you put this?
I say it's higher for sure. I say like 3 or 4. Not godlike for sure.
I'd err more on the 3, just because most magical things, not every magic thing, in power is just a magic way to do something that, at least now, 20, 30 years later than the books take place, we have in the Muggle world.
Yeah, that's a good argument. I would have been leaning towards the 4 because there are some pretty amazing and powerful things they do with the magic. But sometimes they're doing things that actually they could do simpler without the magic. So, okay, really? Is it that powerful?
The biggest exceptions to me is like teleportation and duplication. Those things are big.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the other big things, I mean, even one of the most powerful spells, the Killing Curse, there are much more effective ways in the Muggle world.
Sad but true.
That makes sense, yeah. Drew likes to joke, like, sure, he has Avada Kedavra, but, like, what if I have a gun? Like, that kind of thing.
It's the Raiders of the Lost Ark moment.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So, yeah, let's go with a 3 then. Let's hit middle of the road on that.
Works for me.
I could see some people arguing with us on that one, but hey, we're doing the podcast, we're making the rules. Okay.
Zach was so good at convincing.
Can you tell I did debate?
It's almost like he planned all this out ahead of time.
Yeah, it's like he used to debate.
All right, impact is our 4th item. How much does magic impact this world and the story being shared? So it's either infinitesimal at the bottom or tremendously at the top. Where do we put this?
I'd give it a 5, but for a fun, like with a funny qualification, because I think it does heavily impact the world. I think it does, like, it is the story. And yet we also, this whole series is a hidden world kind of thing. So, like, most of the world is not really affected until, like, the end.
That's what I was unsure of. I was wondering if it meant impact on the Wizarding world or impact on the world.
I would argue that they are impacted. They just don't know it, because that's part of the impact the Wizarding worlds have.
Fantastic Beasts kind of shows that very well, actually.
But I'm blanking on the name of the government.
Ministry of Magic.
Ministry of Magic. One of their prime directives is to make sure that anything that might have revealed the magic to the people is hidden, is occluded. It goes away, because yes, things have been done throughout history with magic impacting the rest of the world. So I go 5 with this one.
Plus, there's that scene in the book where the minister meets with the minister of magic and is basically not with the prime minister, and is like pretty much like, here's what we're doing, here's what you're going to do in response. So it's like he tells them what to do. I would agree with 5.
Yep. And that was one of the few muggles who totally knows about the magic, because he needs to know.
Yeah, and not on accident.
Them and most parents of Muggle-born children.
Yes. I like that you put most, because now I'm imagining like parents just not knowing where their kids are going.
Hermione's parents got their memories erased, so they don't know.
Yeah. I was just imagining parents being completely oblivious as to where their kids are going for a whole year.
Yeah. It's boarding school.
Oh yeah, I signed up for a boarding school. It's fine.
Off to D&D summer camp, Jordo says. Yeah, that's great.
They're just LARPing in the woods at this big castle. It's fine.
It's all good. It's magical.
But that's a good score on one of these. Maybe there's still hope.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we'll give them a 5. Okay, now let's get back to, so much for the good scores. Practical value. What good does the magic system do in the world?
You seem more bad than good.
Is it of little value, or is it highly significant? Where do we put it now? We talked about all the things that they do with magic that you could actually more easily do without the magic. That's a ding against the practical value here.
Yeah.
The only thing I think of as being a person who is learning how to be an adult and do chores, it's very helpful for things that a lazy person such as me would love to be able to do, like cleaning. And Accio or however you want to pronounce it, is like my favorite spell, because I would love to be able to do that.
Yeah, you don't have to get up from the couch.
Exactly. But then at the same time, all the big effects in the world from Harry Potter are really negative. There's not any positive that goes on.
It's the really weird thing where, of magics that I've read in series and stuff, this is the one that like I kind of most actually want in real life. Like for me specifically, because I would use it all the time, but I also wouldn't use it for any of the big flashy really awesome stuff. I'd use it for household chores like you would, Sam. So it has good practical value, we see that, but maybe just because we're lazy and don't want to do the dishes.
I actually convinced Drew to bring me something by using Accio the other day. Instead of like asking him, I was like, hey, Accio scissors, and he was like, and so he had to go get it, and it was amazing.
Got him trained already.
Yes.
Well, that's practical value right there. Yeah. So, okay, it can do things that are rather practical, but we don't tend to see it used a lot for things that are highly significant. Yes. Yeah. So that kind of screams middle of the road again.
Yeah, I think so.
3?
Too.
We're good on 3s?
Yeah.
All right. Last one. Means of usage. What does it take of a person to use the magic? And at the bottom, it's nearly impractical. And at the top, it's, using the magic is like breathing. It is so simple and easy and natural.
The middle one is important on this.
And I'll mention the middle descriptor on this one is specifically requires training, but doable. So where do we want to rate this?
I would say, and I'm going to defend this, a 2.
What?
Because a 3 would be they have to go to school and stuff, right? Then they learn how to do magic. But a 3 would be they have to go to school and then they're great at magic. A 2 to me is they have to go to school, but if they're just not a self-confident person or something, they might still be bad at magic.
That's so interesting, because I was thinking 4, partially because I was thinking of when they're little and they accidentally do magic. Like, it's just it comes so naturally when you're not directing the spell. I think it's more difficult when you're trying to do a direct thing, a specific thing.
So magic itself does
and
come, but doing things intentionally with magic, that's hard.
Yeah.
Do we consider into this at all, though, that there's a whole segment of the population that it doesn't matter how much they try, they just can't use magic?
That's a really good point.
A good point, yeah. Because it's a very large population. I'm assuming. They don't really talk about the percentage of the world as magic, but
we do get the impression it's a pretty small percentage.
I mean, none of us have gotten our letters to Hogwarts, right?
Nope, still haven't.
I have a fake one from that birthday party I did. Remember that birthday party, Zach?
Oh, I do remember that birthday party. I was there.
I have a fake one.
It also was not your 11th.
Zach, there was a
No, it was like my 19th.
there was a time about 10 years ago, Zach, where we were shooing away a lot of owls. That might have been important, but water under the bridge.
It's okay. I got to be
I
in
love
Alaska
it.
instead. That's okay. I'll take it.
Okay.
So where do you sit, Dad?
I would give this a 2.
Because of all the
You
muggles?
convinced him, Zach.
Because of all the people that can't use magic at all. And for those who can, it seems some of them just can't ever really get it very well. It doesn't matter. They're just not good students or whatever. And
you have the
and
Seamuses
then
who blow everything up.
Right. And then you've got some that just don't seem to even have to try, and it's just marvelous. And it's like, ugh. Okay, so means of usage, I'm between a 2 and a 3, but because I'm feeling jaded about Harry Potter, I'm going with 2.
So
I'll agree to that.
can we give it a 2 and we'll say that Sam in her heart believes it really should be at least a 3?
We can do that, yeah. The Sam Hart score.
It's okay, Jordo on Discord, he started with a 4, and they kind of went to a 3, and now we're going to a 2, so we're breaking his heart here.
Because you guys are so
Like
convincing.
I said, we were going to be judgy tonight.
Yeah.
Hey, at least we gave it 1-5. This gives a grand total for Horcruxes. Out of 30, it got 18.
Oh no. Oh no. I think it beat Tolkien.
That's not
I
good.
think Tolkien was a 17.
I am disappointed to note that that is not the worst that any of ours have ever done. You are correct.
Ooh. I would also like to say that that means we each owe 6 Horcruxes. So.
Oh no, Sam, you're the guest. You have to do all of them.
Oh. Okay, I'll get started. I have a long enough list of people where I think I can do it.
You can start with Drew. He's in the other room.
Perfect, and then Connor.
Yeah. So
our cat's been attacking me a lot, so I'll go for him third.
And that's even thematic.
there you go. All right. Yeah. Confirming, by the way, Tolkien, Middle Earth was 17. We just rated Harry Potter above Tolkien. I feel
almost
sick
want
now.
Harry Potter to be worse.
My stomach is upset. I might have to go throw something.
I love it because those are 2 of the most popular magic systems or books or series, and they're so low. It's unfortunate. That just shows how good the story is.
Zach, we've never yet gotten hate mail. This finally might do it.
I want to give myself hate mail for this. And not for it being low, for it being higher than Lord of the Rings.
I know. This is wrong. I feel dirty.
It hurts my heart a little bit. It does hurt my heart. My Harry Potter loving heart.
But it is what it is.
Absolute fact.
All right.
Undisputable. Except for those who will dispute it.
Don't ask around.
Done so objectively. Absolutely.
It's canon.
We even brought in a third party.
Who just finished reading them a couple months ago.
All right.
Yeah, but that's an episode. That is an actual official rating.
That does it. So there we go.
Ooh.
Though there is another kind of rating. One that, if you really agreed with ours, you listening at home could give us. Go on to where you listen to podcasts and review and rate us.
Do you think they will after we rated this above Lord of the
No,
Rings?
but I just thought maybe it would be a good segue and I could try and maybe get pity points for humor.
And maybe only if you agree with us. Don't bother if you don't.
They'll be like, guys, this is what a 1 looks like. Duh. Star. 1 star. Oh, no. Okay.
At least the people who've abandoned the series because of J.K. Rowling will be happy with us.
There you go.
We'll have their support.
Absolutely. But seriously, if people do disagree with this, or they're thrilled at where we put the scores, they should get a hold of us. They should let us know. So yes, they could have gone and done a rating to let the whole world know what they're thinking, but there are ways for them to tell us directly.
Much more personal.
What are some of those ways, Zach?
You can reach us by email, FantasyForTheAges@gmail.com, or you can come chat with us on Discord, where the conversation is pretty much always open and, well, always open and often going. And we can continue this conversation about this topic or many others directly. You also can reach out to us or find us on a number of social medias, be it Twitter, where we often post, Instagram, where we post our drinks and boozy things, and Facebook, where we occasionally check if someone decided to post something there.
There are a few very nice things posted there, and we usually remember to at least list our episodes there, though I'm pretty sure the last 2 are missing. So I'll have to get that there. So yeah, those are great ways people can directly interact with us. And if they want to be a part of this podcast and support things, keep things going even next level,
If you want to shout at us in person while we're giving a bad rating to your favorite series,
what could they do?
you can become a patron. Go check out our Patreon page where you can support us and at various tiers get different benefits, from early access to episodes, taking part live in our Discord server, or even getting some exclusive content there that we release just to our patrons.
Lots of ways to interact, and for everyone who is already a patron, thank you so much. It's a lot of fun. We appreciate your support. And that you find times to join us live in these recordings. It makes it that much richer and fun. All right, I have nothing else, Zach, other than to say thank you to Sam for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. It was
Good
fun.
to see you. A lot of fun.
I was excited to talk about Harry.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that you brought some depth of wisdom that I was lacking. So that was
Kept me
great.
from forgetting very important things that I just didn't include. Whoops.
I was like, did he do this on purpose? Because they feel important to me, so I'm going to write something down about it.
Yeah.
But you definitely made our episode that much better, so thank you for being with us.
Yeah, of course. It was fun. Thanks for having me.
All right, Zach, you got anything else?
Nothing more.
Then I think we'll close it here, and we'll talk to you next time.